Hello there, good morning, and welcome to today's lesson, a continuation of grouping of notes. Today, we're going to be looking at some exceptions in grouping musical notes. In our previous lessons, we learned some of the basic groupings or beaming we have in all the time signatures. Not all, but some of them actually. We looked at beaming in 2/4, we looked at beaming in 3/4, we looked at beaming in 4/4. All these basic or simple time signatures are having some exceptional rules to them, unlike those we looked at in our previous lessons. So quickly, let's start and have a look at that. So we quickly have a recap on our musical notes. So we basically group notes that have flags. So note beaming is done to make reading of music easier. When the notes are not put together, it makes it very difficult to read. But when they are put together, as we are about to learn, it makes it quite easier to identify and read. We beam quavers and semiquaver notes together, as explained earlier in our previous lesson. Now, in the following time signatures, 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4, we beam to make a crotchet note. This means that every time we put together two notes or we put together beats, we have to make sure they amount to a crotchet note. So, for example, we can put together two quavers. A crotchet note is made up of two quavers. So we can put two quavers together to create a beat, a crotchet note, which is here. We can also put together 4 semiquavers to have a crotchet beat. Each semiquaver is a quarter, 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 quarter. So 4 quarters make one whole note, which is a crotchet. This is a half note, making one count or a beat. We can also put together quaver notes and semiquaver notes together in this way. So we can have a quaver and 2 semiquavers put together this way to still create a beat, a crotchet beat. Or the other way around, we can have the 2 semiquavers coming first and the quaver following. Either way, we still have a crotchet beat. Don't forget, it is very important. So now let's have a look at some of these exceptions we have in beaming musical notes together. In 2/4, you can beam all 4 quavers together like this. If there are only quavers in the bar, you can beam all 4 in a bar like this together, instead of what we learned earlier where we beam just 2 together for a quaver, another 2 together for a quaver. As it says, basically we have to get a beat. But the exception in 2/4 is you can put together all 4 quavers in a bar, provided the notes in the bar are all quavers. If one is not a quaver, you cannot do that. You can either do this. If some are semiquavers, you do this to represent one beat and you put together the other. But if they are all quavers, you put the 4 together. If they are all semiquavers, you don't put all the 8s together, but you group them into 4s, because 4 make one beat, another 4 make one beat, as we learned earlier. The next exception we're going to be looking at is in the time signature of 3/4. We can also beam a whole measure of quavers in the time signature of 3/4. So if there are only quavers in a bar or measure, we can put all the 6 together this way, as compared to what we did earlier where we put them in groups of 2s. Crotchet, another crotchet, another crotchet, another crotchet. The exception here is we can still choose to put all the 6 quavers together this way, but not in threes. You can't put them together in groups of threes, as we said earlier. You can do this as an exception. So this is the exception 2, 3, 4 beaming. Let's have a look at 4, 4. In 4, 4, however, we can't go across the center of the bar or measure. We can only beam them in groups of 2s or in half measures. So let's take half. There are 8 quavers here. Let's take them in groups of halves. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We put the first 4 together, and the next half 1, 2, 3, 4, which becomes this, as we are seeing here. But we cannot cross the center together this way. It has to be grouped in halves. It cannot have this here. This is wrong. This is wrong. In 4, 4, you can put them in halves, but you cannot have them this way. Alright. Now, another exception we are going to look, which is very interesting, is in the time of 3/8. In the time of 3/8. In 3/8 time signature, there is basically no rule for this time signature. You can put together the beams or the flags in any way you want. It can be done in any way you want, both semiquavers and quavers. So here are some few examples of how you can put them together. You can have a quaver, you can have a semiquaver, and 2 semiquavers and a quaver. You still put all of them together, and those with the 2 flags, you still join them together, making this, because they have 2 flags, so they have to be represented with 2 flags. You can have 2 semiquavers coming, a quaver, and another 2 semiquavers. The first line joined together, and the second flags, as you can see here, the first 2 semiquavers put together, joined by a quaver and another 2 semiquavers. So you can basically put them together in any, but don't forget that some are semiquavers where you have to add another line to those 2 notes. Now, look at the third example here. We have just 1 semiquaver and a quaver, another quaver, and another semiquaver. So with the semiquaver, this short line is represented by the second flag, meaning it has 2 flags, but it can be joined to the quaver because the quaver has only 1 flag. So all the first flags are put together, and these short lines represent the ones with quaver. If they were to be 2 quavers here, these 2 lines would have joined here, but there's only 1 quaver, making it a half line to represent it as a quaver, as a semiquaver, sorry. And there is a quaver here, another quaver here, and another semiquaver, which is alone. As you can see, it is also having a short line to represent. Now, the lines are always inside, not outside, as you can see here. This line cannot be at the back. It's put inside to make sure that all these notes are together. So the line should not be outside. This one should not also be outside, but inside. This is the end of the exceptions we have in note grouping. And this brings us to the end of grouping of musical notes. In our next lesson, we'll be looking at how to put together musical rests. Musical rests are the silences of the musical notes, and there are various rests for the various musical notes, and we'll be learning how to put those ones together. Thank you and have a lovely day.